How is everyone doing today? And welcome back to another episode of Spooky Japan Podcast. Hoping everyone is doing well. Today we are doing something a little bit different. As you can see, we have a VTuber with us. He is a traveling content creator. He's been to Japan. Welcome, Ryu. How are you doing, Ryu?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
It's nice for you to be here. So yeah, definitely with you. Like I said before, you've been in Japan. You've been all over the place. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about the
Mhm.
culture as well. Since obvious, I mean, I know a little bit about Japan. Irene knows maybe just a little about Japan, just a little, teeny tiny. Yeah,
This much,
just a little,
just a whittle, right?
just a little.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, so you've also had some paranormal experiences.
Yes, I have. It A lot of them happened just whilst traveling and doing different jobs, getting different experiences. There have been some sightings that I've had of demonic entities and what I believe to be poltergeists that
hmm
were that were negative entities.
hmm
But honestly, other than those, I have not seen much.
Have you seen anything when you were in Japan? Anything paranormal?
So when I went exploring out in Fukushima Daiichi, it was this was a guided tour of the plant. Around the in the Fukushima prefecture, after the earthquake happened back in 2012 and the power plant had a meltdown, it is said that you can go to the beaches and you can see the spirits of the citizens that were once there.
hmm
And say, the same is to be said with all the houses.
hmm
I think Irene, you mentioned something about that before. With they're still finding bones in some of the in some of the beaches in
Yeah,
here in Japan.
yeah. They're trying to gather all the bones. They're finding a lot of bones in a lot of different islands too. So they're trying to, you know, fetch them and bring them and have them properly, put at peace. But there's a lot of things that are happening all over the place, and they didn't realize that there were so many bones out there, and so much has happened. uh, it's like it's just mind-boggling to the government and to the recovery system.
Yeah, it's. I feel like since I've been here, especially compared to the states, and I
Mhm.
don't know, maybe if you've experienced something like this. But I feel like I've seen more shadow figures here in Japan than I have, especially back in the States. Have you seen anything paranormal while you were in Japan?
Oops, what happened?
You still with us?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties. Um, so in my time in Japan, yes, I have seen some paranormal. Especially the main ones was when I did go out to Fukushima Daiichi. Following me getting a tour of the plant
Mm-hmm.
and looking at samples of tritium,
Mm-hmm.
which is what they are currently trying to filter out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I took a tour of the closure area and took some measurements of the radiation that
Mm-hmm.
was in the area. It's not as significant as it once was, but it is still lingering there due to the amount of the irradiation that happened in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just being there. You can feel the energy
Mm.
and all of the fear that was once there.
That's something that really doesn't go away, that because it lingers for a long time. Um,
They're saying supposedly the radiation from Hiroshima and the Nagasaki bombing area is supposed to be completely gone. I don't believe it.
Mm.
I believe some of it's still there. Hopefully not enough to
Harm anybody?
hopefully
Yeah.
not enough to interfere with us. Well, interfere with me down here and my family living
Hmm.
down here because I live n- not too far from. I can drive and make a day trip to the Nagasaki bombing thing. I
Yeah.
could
So the
drive.
radiation, so the radiation level should not be significant. There could still be lingering radiation in certain parts of it, but from my most recent trip to Nagasaki, it was very minimal, and
Mm.
everything is life is bustling over there.
Mm.
There should be no lingering radiation, but I could go take measurements.
Mm.
That would be an interesting thing to have.
Yeah.
Is the measurements of the radiation still there? Yeah, someone
Mm.
was saying back to you, Ryu, what you're saying earlier. There's probably still lots of power for the ghost to feed off of there, where you
Yeah.
were.
Exactly. Not just that, the UFO is astronomical high in Fukushima and in places like that where there are power plants. There still are there, but yeah, it's just astronomical high from that after the earthquake. And there's something about earthquakes, uh power plants and UFOs, they all go together and they're still looking in the sky. So yeah, it's just something
Definitely
there that
always, definitely always near the power plants because, as
yeah.
we've said before, that's where you see a lot of UFOs. But that's also where.
Well, also from my experience working in that field, um, power plants tend to have a lot of electromagnetic fields and different energy fields from the high voltages that are
Hmm.
processed there. So that could also be more energy for spirits to feed off of.
Hmm.
And with the amount of injuries and deaths that happens in power plants each year, it's no doubt that
Hmm.
if you were to go to a power plant, you could possibly see paranormal activity.
I
Mm.
used I used to live down the street from one back when I lived in Montana, and people, even the workers, would say, and people would walking by. If you wanted a ghost experience, you basically would just walk over to and walk around the fenced-in area, well, outside the fence, obviously, of the power plants for that reason, because there's always spirit spirit activity there.
Yeah, and I wouldn't doubt that too. I think that is a most definite thing that happens. Um, is there anything that really freaked you out, like really bad, that had an effect on you when you visit certain places?
So I remember one time I was on a vacation with some friends. We were doing multiple stream cons. We were going from LA to Miami. We made a stop in
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans and we visited the graveyards in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of negative energy in those
Mm-hmm.
graveyards, you can just feel the anger, the hatred there.
Mm.
Thankfully, nobody was disturbing the spirits. Nobody was trying to cause any problems, so nothing
Mm-hmm.
really happened. But you can just feel the presence.
Mm. Um. Yeah, that's one place that has a lot of history, right, Amanda?
Yeah.
And it depends on what you are and how they see you, depending on the energy that you give them, the energy that they portray towards you, whether it be negative or positive or something else, right? It's
New
just
Orleans
because
in
you,
general has. I do want to visit there just because there is still people there who claim to be real life vampires that actually do this
yeah,
they feel sick until they drink someone's blood. They say they obviously they wait until they have consent from the person. They don't just go out like the movies and drain blood. They just drain enough to not make themselves sick, but it's always people who are willing to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
because they're like, don't watch the movie thinking that's what we do. It's consent, and it's not enough to ever
Yeah.
drain
Hi,
things.
Joshua. Yeah. Uh, have um have you been anywhere near the Middle East? I'm not gonna say, but have you been in near that area and seen things?
In the Middle East.
Or Middle
Yeah.
East of Japan.
Yeah.
I have not yet, but I do have plans to go out there.
Like they have a lot of history too, and there's a lot of, I don't know. I don't know, how would you put it? How would you put it, Amanda? I couldn't find the right words to put. Dang, this is the first time I come out blank in my head. You know that? Jeez. Um, I think there's a lot of beliefs. There's a lot of things that are totally different from what what we grew up as believing. Right?
Mhm.
I think legends and a lot of I don't know, stuff that we may not understand happens, and I don't know if they believe in the paranormal or how far would they accept or see. I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying it right. And I'm having a hard time putting my words together, Amanda. Help me. Shit. But there you go, right? uh it's just something that may be totally different from what we see and what we feel and what we think, because paranormal's all over the world, right?
It's paranormal is
W-
definitely all over the world. One thing
but what,
with her
yeah,
being a clairvoyant,
yeah, how you believe it, how you perceive it, how you think it is totally different from what we think. That's what I'm trying.
with her being a clairvoyant, she
Yeah,
has talked to spirits of places, and they'll say, usually history books will say one thing, but the spirits say, no, this is
another.
what actually happened.
Yeah, I'm just. I think there's a lot of questions that we still have to answer. I don't think we'll ever get our answers in this lifetime, right? But dang, I sure as hell want to know about certain things that I don't know. And as a clairvoyant, there's only so much that we can
Oh, there's always
see.
gonna be questions we'll never have answers to. I mean, I totally believe the Book of Secrets in America is real.
Yeah.
'Cause there's obviously a lot of secrets that of things that they claimed happened probably
Mhm,
happened another way. It's in the Book of
mm,
Secrets. I
yeah.
totally believe that thing exists.
Um, what's really I'm trying to get at with your guest here is I'm really trying to, like, worm my way into finding out how hard is it with you knowing that you see something, and, like, do you keep it to
Perceiving it.
yourself? Yeah, or no, do you keep it to yourself, or do you have a release place that you could do it, like you can talk about it, or you completely
Oh,
shut down and don't talk
most
about it?
definitely I do. Most definitely I do talk about it with multiple people within my family because all of my family we are believers in spirits and entities. Given that we have had multiple experiences in the past with demonic entities, poltergeist, there has been a lot of activity within my family, and I have never had an experience that somebody has told me that that just isn't true.
How about the
Typically, a
work
lot of
field? Within your work field, how would have you talked about it through that way? And I know some organizations don't want to believe that it happens or don't want to accept that it's real. What about you?
so with us VTubers, we typically are very open to really anything,
Mm-hmm.
just due to the fact that we are a unique community. So each of us have different views of different things, and the people that I get to work with, they're amazing. So there's other VTubers I do collaborate with that
Mm-hmm.
do believe in the spiritual realm, and we are actually currently planning a trip to go to Chernobyl to go try to see if there's spiritual activity in Chernobyl.
Oh, I feel like there definitely should be.
Yeah, you can bet 100% there is, right? I mean,
Oh,
there's
yes,
no
most
doubt about
definitely,
it.
but but currently right now it's up in the air, especially with the entire Russia Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
But once
Yeah.
the entire situation dies down, then we will most definitely making a visit to Chernobyl to go take measurements and see potential activity.
Have you
I
ever
think
been to Mount Fuji?
No, I have not.
that's another place
Mount
that you should
Fuji,
visit.
for some odd reason, Mount Fuji, I feel like is that something about Mount about Mount Fu- about Mount
Come on,
Fuji
spit it
is
out, dear.
something about Mount Fuji is a seems to be a magnet for spirits. Like the suicide forest is underneath it, and then a lot of people who didn't believe in spirits before said that they got the hotel room. They didn't actually go to Mount Fuji, but they had a hotel room that viewed Mount Fuji, and they had a freaky ghost story that turned them into a believer. So something, even
Mhm.
just being around that area, something about it seems to draw in the spirits.
So my theory with that is, given the overall energy, especially with with the forest being underneath it,
Mhm.
um, you have a lot of just sorrow and despair. You have a lot of those feelings that are trapped there,
Mhm.
and you also have the one people who, albeit it's unlikely, people who pass trying to climb Mount Fuji.
Mhm.
You have all of those spirits that are there, so they are all just spread across the face of the mountain. So it's likely that you will see high paranormal activity within the vicinity of Mount Fuji.
Plus, there's also a theory that goes with it, because we're planning a trip on Tuesday, and it's a little bit north from me. Okay, you go through Saitama, you go through Guma Prefecture, and you go through Tochigi Prefecture, and you go straight through there, and you're at Mount Fuji. So and everything paranormal or everything ghostly or anything that has to do with spirits all lead up to that one route. And it's one road, and you don't deviate elsewhere. It's just, yeah, you go straight through it and you get right to the end of Mount Fuji, which is Yamanashi Prefecture. And yeah, it's kind of creepy when you think about it, right? Because you don't think that one road, one highway would lead would go from one prefecture to another prefecture, and the final destination is Mount Fuji. And beyond that is Niigata Prefecture, where the earthquake happened there. Again, um, that was devastating too. But it's just like, why is there that one road that could bring so much paranormal activity, and nobody knows? And is it on the same current? Is there something there that's creating it? It's just question after question about it.
So my theory with that would be, so not only do you have that road being the main in and out,
Mm-hmm.
um, that would be the main way that the energy would travel within the prefectures that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the main way that they travel, along with
Mm-hmm.
just people, like
Mm-hmm.
collisions and vehicle accidents that happen on that highway,
Mm-hmm.
trapping those entities on that highway.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at it, there's lots of haunted hotels there too. There's lots of abandoned haunted hotels there too on that road too. So it's just really creepy, creepy, creepy. And there's one thing that I don't think you've noticed in Tochigi Prefecture, right? Which is beyond. It's just past um Gunma Prefecture, is the Suicide Waterfall. I suggest you go there. It's
I'm
really beautiful. It's gorgeous to look at, but when you get up close, you could see the residual energy of spirits jumping off the waterfall to kill themselves, unalive themselves.
Yeah, so
That
basically, when the war ended, these people assumed America was going to come over, take over Japan, and their way of life was basically going to end. Them being unhappy
yeah,
about it, literally jumped to their death at this waterfall.
and it's loaded with residual energy. You may not see it with the naked eye, but if you take a still photograph with your cell phone or anything, you could see them, and you could see their faces. You could see their legs jumping in the water. It's just unbelievable. It's and that same route is that same road leading to that area too. It's just crazy, crazy. And I don't know. I don't know what made that. I don't know what made that route really weird, but it's one of the weirdest places I've ever been to. And around there, the forests too are really haunted also too. So because the old, I don't know, the old way of life, right?
yes.
With samurai warriors were were roaming. There was a lot of, shall we say, deaths that happened. Whether you're innocent, whether you're guilty, didn't matter. You still die by the sword. So there's a lot of unclaimed spirits. There's a lot of uh, lot of spirits that have not crossed over. Um, a lot has happened too. It's
I
just
mean, not only
crazy.
when samurais were killed in battle, but they also killed, unfortunately, their whole families just so no one can,
Yep,
seek revenge for the death of their father
yep,
or their whoever it was to them.
yep. And especially if you're a witch, if you're labeled as a witch, a female, yeah, your life is not worth anything. Um, especially if you're a female, like you tried to give herbal medicine was the only thing that was available a long time ago. If you were giving a sick person herbal medicine from a little packet, from a little paper package, you were caught. Uh, your your life would end right there, and your children's life would end right there too. So it's, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happened that, and if you want to find any information, good luck in finding information because you're not going to find it.
Well, I
There's
also know
no
around
vital
that
record.
era. Also
Yeah.
know around that era that Chinese medicine was a very big influence in Japan.
Yep.
And with my studies in Chinese medicine and feng shui,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that it's mainly a lot of herbing, like
Mm-hmm.
herbs, spices, like you just mentioned, given to in paper.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be that it was the how would I how do I explain this? It could
Mm-hmm.
be that it was the Chinese affluence in Japan that they labeled
Mm-hmm.
as bad,
Mm-hmm. Well,
and that
not
would be
only
why. But they would also likely associate that with witchcraft due to the effects that Chinese medicine has on the body.
well, on the other side of that, men were labeled as doctors, right? So it was very sexist a long time ago. So if you're a female, you're not allowed to be a doctor. Compared to today, right? Today, right? But men
Yeah,
were doctors. They had permission by the shogun to be a doctor, so they had that label. Okay, but women were not allowed to be that had that label. Women were allowed to be. Uh, they were allowed to be nurses to take care of the sick or take care of the babies or to be midwives. But as far as medicine were concerned, men were the only one who were allowed to deliver the medicine to the sick and dying. So it's kind of weird, right? But there's a lot of things that happened back then that we could never dream of in our 20th century, right? And yeah, it existed, it happened. Um, but you can't change history, you know that, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
And it happened for a reason. Uh, I don't understand the psychology about it, but it's the country, right, that we live in. Uh, I think there's a lot of things that we could never talk about, but yeah, I'm willing to talk about it because I'm kind of
yeah.
different. Amanda knows me for a long time. Amanda's known me for a long time now. She knows how I think. Like, I'm
Yeah,
kind of different.
Yeah, we
as you
don't
said, we
hate all
can't
men.
change. Yeah, as you said, we can't change history.
No.
But a famous, not famous, but a quote that Grandpa Rio told me. Um, you don't want to try to change history. You want to
Mhm.
study it. That way, you don't want to. That way, you don't repeat what happened.
Yeah, but you know what? It has happened, right? And you've seen it everywhere. Ethnic cleansing, um, incarceration of certain nationalities. History has a way of repeating itself because I feel we haven't learned, and we better start bulking down and learning how to live with how to live with each other. Because if we don't, we're gonna wipe ourselves off the earth, and we only have us to to blame. And I think it's up to us to teach, but who's gonna listen, right?
Yeah.
And how would you what would you put in words of what I just said, being in your
Um.
job?
So, as a VTuber, just like I don't. You wouldn't want to repeat history, but we do see it repeating itself, especially modern day. Just you, it may not be repeating itself in the same way that it did in the
Mm-hmm.
past, but it is still happening. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
events that transpired, but they're happening in a different way. And if we don't learn from our mistakes and learn from our past, then we are to blame for
Mm-hmm.
any effects of what happened
Mm-hmm.
when we don't
Yeah,
take lessons from ourselves.
I
I know
think
they're
a lot
trying.
of
I think they're trying to change some history. That's the whole
yeah.
conspiracy theory about the Mandela effect.
Mm-hmm.
Is they're trying to change. They're working on changing history, so that's why they're
Mm,
starting to change smaller things out there where where everyone's like, I don't remember it as this, but it turns out it was never that way.
And they're not educating. Well, schools are not going to teach you, right? So what's left is there to teach? Who is going to do it? That's the thing, right? And I don't like, the dumbest thing that I heard, right, from a person on Facebook was that, the new atomic bombs are supposed to be better, and you're supposed to, you're not supposed to get sick, and it's just like a pat on the back. I went, what? Like I said, lady, are you smoking something? Did you take any crazy drugs, like psychotropic drugs? Because, excuse me, a nuclear bomb, we've seen the after effects from Nagasaki and Hiroshima, okay? Some places got worse, some places they are not that bad because some places had more mountains and some places more flat land. And a lot of people got sick more in Hiroshima than they did Nagasaki because Nagasaki has more mountainous areas. But I mean, the effects are going to be the same thing. You're still going to get sick, right?
Oh,
Yeah, so Wayne said there's no
oh,
such thing as a better atomic bomb.
And you're still
yeah,
going to.
there is definitely not. And we're approaching a field that I'm fairly experienced in, just mainly because I do study
Hmm.
radiology and I do like to study the effects of radiation on humans.
Hmm.
I do, and on the environment. Um, there is, as Wayne said, there is no such thing as a better atomic bomb. We're just finding crueler and crueler ways to
Hmm.
pretty much eradicate our own race.
Yeah.
There, the fact that we have weapons that are capable of what they are capable of,
Hmm.
it's mind blowing to me that people would even attempt to use those against each other
Yeah. And
because it would take the effects of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and multiply exponentially due to advances in technology and being able to hit multiple targets with one payload.
hmm. Hmm.
It's just mind-boggling how far we've come and the fact that we're still threatening each other with these weapons.
uh, do you think
Although instead of making weapons, we could make renewable energy.
do you think the government, this is just your opinion, okay, not because of anything else, do you think the government would ever remove those from, mm, whatever? Because I know there are
Um
nuclear subs, I know there are, they still have nuclear bombs
so
hidden away inside those, I know that.
so using elements like plutonium, uranium, cesium as sources of fuel,
Mm-hmm.
most definitely I would love to keep that because it is an amazing way to have renewable energy.
Mm-hmm.
However, weaponizing it, that is where the problem begins, and I do not see the government in a position to remove it
Mm-hmm.
because that would mean that we would be putting ourselves at risk
Mm-hmm.
with every other country in the world if
Like
we were to remove
yeah,
ours.
like you have, like, living on this side of the road, right, living on this side of the country, okay, it's totally different from America. You have Russia, you have North Korea, you have China, right? And it's like Japan is like a sitting duck in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, right? Um, yeah, it's kind of scary to tell you the truth, right?
I think
Um,
that's why the U.S. military has bases here in Japan. I know a
yeah,
lot of the Japanese people are not happy with the American military here. I kind of understand hearing. Obviously, I'm in the spouse pages, so hearing the stories that they're posting. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, Okinawa has the most single mothers made by people in the military down there. So I can
Yeah.
understand why they really don't like them more.
But you know what? Okinawa is in a really vulnerable place, right? If you look at the map of where Okinawa is, right? Like
Mhm.
you you know what I mean. It's just really crazy because that'd be the easiest island to attack if there is ever something happening, right?
Yes,
It's
yes, but however, I would like to see someone attempt a beach landing on Okinawa with United States Marines there. That
You have the
would be
Marines
funny.
and the Air Force there, so
yeah.
the
It'd be funny, just
Marines.
like, oh no, we messed up. Can we go home now?
No, the
Like
Marines. If they were told, if the Marines there were told you're allowed to do violence on the people landing, I think they would have a field day.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, as the chubby electron guy once said, um, the last person you want to give the machine to is some E4 with a vested interest in hurrying this stuff up. That way he can go home and take a nap.
Yeah.
Or like it was bad friggin' dream, right?
Yeah,
Like oops. Like big oops, right?
it's just like you have the entire military on their toes, just like, please let me just let me go, let me do this. And you have the bigger military just like, no. But that's all coming from my friends in the military. I am not military,
Mhm.
I'll have
but
to ask my husband on that one. He's been to
Yeah.
Okinawa, so
Uh
yeah, I'll ask. I get most of my information on the military from family members because I have family members that are all in the military.
mhm.
I myself chose to go into content creation just because it's something that I do enjoy and it's something I
I'm
carry
also
on.
very I'm careful in what I say, even if it's just an opinion on military, just because people assume because my husband's in the military. Oh, my husband knows something, and he must have told me, and I'm like, he he's Jon Snow. He knows nothing.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Oh, that's a name I have not heard in a minute.
yeah. That's what I tell people. I'm like, no, I tend not to talk about it just because if people
No,
assume I know something. I'm like, I don't. He doesn't.
we know
Not
nothing.
every just because you're in the military doesn't mean you know anything
Oh yeah.
about anything.
And you got to be careful these days, right, about who you talk about and who you talk with, because you don't know the next Joe Blow from what he is, and you don't know his motives either, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which country you live in, right? It's just something that you want to keep to yourself and make sure that nobody else has any information about you because cyber, they can pick up anything and anything from you, right? And yeah, they can find out whatever they want on you, and you gotta be more vigilant, I think, these days.
Oh yes,
um
most definitely. So with me working in my industry in like content creation and doing VTubing, my
mhm,
manager, he is very weary of who I do content with just because it can affect not only my character but the agency that I do represent
mhm,
with whenever I VTube. Like say um Mori Calliope with Hololive Ian.
mhm,
They tend to do collabs with only certain people
mhm,
just because it could affect the way that the character is.
mhm. And I understand that too. I get that. um um it's interesting now. Have you seen the waters around Japan Sea? You notice that there's a lot of ships around, right?
Well, yeah.
There's a
There's a lot
lot.
of
It's
American
getting
ships. There's a lot of Japanese ships. There's a lot of
oh
visiting military
yeah.
ships. There's a lot of obviously fishing ships.
There's
Well,
Especially here, that's one thing I love about Japan is we go to one of those conveyor belt sushi like restaurants, and
mm-hmm,
they catch their sushi that morning.
mm-hmm.
And if they didn't catch enough of it to sell, they say cannot sell due to not catching enough this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's also why you see a lot of fishing.
yeah, that was my favorite part when I was in Japan was
Mm-hmm,
when I was going to all these content creations, I always knew that I could trust where I was getting my food from, what I
mm-hmm,
was eating because the Japanese take so much pride in their work
mm-hmm.
that I really didn't have to worry. That was honestly my favorite part from being in Japan. In the coming months, I'm supposed to be going on some more collabs.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I have some more experiences I can bring back to you guys and talk more about.
Yeah. Um, we most definitely want to hear, right? Um, in Japan, we have a particular law with fish that it has to be caught that morning or the middle of the night, gutted, cleaned, served that day. And if it's not, it's hucked. It's and they have a certain time limit too in Japan too where they can serve it. It's like everything, including the convenience stores, right, Amanda? Um, everything has a time limit, and if the grocery
Convenience
stores,
stores are elite here in
yeah,
Japan.
the
That is
grocery
one thing.
stores too, the grocery
Yeah.
stores too, all have a time limit. They have the time that it went out, the time that it's allowed to be out, and after that, it's all collected and thrown in the garbage. Uh, because this country's so humid. Amanda knows it's really hot in the summertime, right? Like we're sitting here baking, we're sitting here baking doing our podcast. So health wise, it's dangerous to leave anything out too long because you can get sick.
That's why I don't see the fishing ships out here at night, but I do see them early in the morning
Yeah,
out there catching.
yeah,
My dog from the window likes watching them come in too, so
yeah. It's just one of the most strictest countries you've ever lived in, right?
but
As
there's a
far
lot of
So,
more rules here in general when it comes to food. Like here, the you can eat egg yolk raw, and
hmm
you won't get sick, and that's because check they have to test the chickens each day for viruses and bacteria,
yeah,
and they still, just in case, as a safety precaution, they still go through like this UV red light kind of thing before they're
yeah.
able to be sold, just to make sure you're not gonna get like salmonella or something.
The water too that they drink is also tested. Also, it's just one of the rules I think that we have in this country. There's a lot of things that are totally different from where you are from. We're from and right from America, right, Amanda?
Mhm.
It's just like totally different. Like things that you go, huh? Like remember when you first get you go, huh? Really? Like I can? Like I
so
can't.
I think one of the best things that I've seen in Japan was just the quality of Japanese engineering and the quality of y'all's culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the VTubers I collab with, Leah, she is an engineer. She loves engineering. That's what she dedicates her all of her streams to is trying to teach other people engineering and doing engineering for different things. She draws out different models.
Mm-hmm.
When she came over here, she was extremely pleased with how what's the word that I'm looking for? Precise. The
Mhm.
Japanese are with their engineering.
Mhm.
They have some of the best safety in the world while still maintaining a simple and strong design,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
maintaining an easy to maintenance infrastructure.
Yeah. If you get into an earthquake, you're better off in a house that was made early. uh, typhoons, yeah, the same thing. Like typhoons, earthquake, whatever. We got it all right, Amanda.
Mhm.
uh,
Just one thing I've said to people is I hear they started building things where because they already expected earthquakes here, so they already make everything that's gonna more than likely, for the most part, stand for an earthquake. You know what I mean? They can't completely not have damage, especially in the bigger ones. I can't say, oh, there's gonna be completely no damage. There might be like the AC falls or something like that, but for the most part, it's not gonna completely fall. But I think it's mostly the typhoons that come in afterwards that do more damage,
oh
and that's
yeah,
it,
or the
yeah, and that's just
tsunami.
because the
The-
tsunami is just because how high
Yeah.
the water gets. You really can't make anything to keep the water from not destroying anything.
I
So
think we're.
so doubling back on that, with Fukushima Daiichi, that's actually what caused the reactor to melt down. Was there was a underwater earthquake?
Mhm.
If I remember right, I actually still have my entire document on it. Hang on, let me pull that up.
Mhm. You know,
Yeah,
nobody
it was a
expected that to happen. Go ahead.
hang on, Fukushima. It was a magnitude 9.0.
Mhm.
Um, and the power plant was designed to stop smaller waves, smaller tsunamis.
Mhm.
But with that magnitude of an earthquake and how far off it was off the coast,
Mhm.
the tsunami ended up getting stronger than what the engineering could handle,
Mhm.
and it broke through. It shut off all of the backup generators and caused a meltdown in the reactors, along
Because
with
I
flooding the
remember.
local area with contaminated wastewater.
I remember that earthquake very easily because I lived in a condo, right? I mean, it lifted up the condo that far off the floor, and you could see the dirt where the condo stood, and it was that bad. And we didn't have power for 2 weeks, to tell you the truth. And we sat in the dark, and it got cold, real cold. It gets real cold after an earthquake, and I froze to this, and I caught a really bad cold. But yeah, I mean, the after effects is just unbelievable. Plus, you got aftershocks too, right? And every
Yeah,
day, every night, my son and I had to take turns who'd watch the room and watch the kids because, like, every day we'd shake and it would go this way and it would go this way. If it goes this way, you're not too bad, but if it goes this way, you're in big trouble because it just lifts everything off the ground and comes back down again. It comes crashing down too. So that's when everything breaks apart when it goes this way. Um, I live, I mean, Amanda knows where I live. I live in the most worst place to live, right? Well, we bought a house.
Tokyo.
Yeah, I live in Tokyo. It's called Earthquake Alley.
yeah. So the tsunami, it was one of the largest one was 14 meters high,
Mm-hmm.
hit 50 minutes after the initial earthquake.
Mhm.
It exceeded the plant's ground level. It flooded the basements. The waves damaged seawater pumps,
Mhm.
and 10 of the plant's 13 cooling systems for their generators, which caused a complete loss of power other than the batteries.
Mhm.
One of them was unaffected, but the DC batteries were 1, 2, and 4 were inoperable. Um, and units 1 through 5 lost power
Mhm.
and lost coolant, causing a meltdown. TEPCO notified
Mhm.
authorities of a first level emergency on that day.
Mhm.
2 workers were killed by the
Mhm.
impact.
Mhm.
Um, if I remember correctly, it was roughly 1,700 deaths. Most
Mhm.
of them from evacuation related to stress, and then
Mhm.
one of them was suspected from radiation.
Mhm.
But I think that's because there was also that those numbers aren't accurate due to there were people who did not want to leave because they spent their entire life
Mhm.
there and they
Yeah.
just didn't want to abandon it.
Yeah. Uh, I think also someone in that company was also put in jail too, if I remember correctly, because they were wasting money and they didn't put the proper um, safety procedures in that power plant, and the guys were out golfing and spending money on themselves instead of fixing what needs to be fixed to prevent accidents happening. So yeah, they got canned, and some went to jail too, if I remember quickly, because I got caught in that earthquake. It was like, yeah, I think I have the worst PTSD from that too. But I remember that the some were prosecuted and they did go to jail. Um, because it was the worst disaster in all of history here.
It's
And
definitely one of the most memorable.
mm-hmm,
Uh, it will this that excuse me, sorry. That disaster would go down and is actually going down in history as one of the worst um meteorological based disasters due to most of the disaster occurred due to an earthquake.
and you know what? We should know better, right? We live in a stupid, dumb volcanic island, okay? I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that okay, we're in another earthquake. Okay, Amanda, like, she's worried about it. You okay? I go, yeah, we're fine. We're gonna continue. Like, we're just
He's
blasé
so
about it
used
here.
to earthquakes
I
by
mean,
now. It's nothing
it
new.
doesn't help that the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant was built right on a beach,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the waves got high enough to overcome the
Mm-hmm.
seawall that they built to try to prevent the waves from coming in, and it just
Oh.
flooded all of the generators and backup batteries and just caused a complete loss of power and meltdown. But right now, current update on that actually, they are working to filter out and repump the wastewater
Mm-hmm.
because they have a lot of wastewater that's sitting in containers on land. They found a way to filter it out,
Mm-hmm.
and they filtered it all out with the exception of a acceptable amount of tritium. Tritium already exists in the Pacific Ocean, in the Pacific Ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and the amount that they are putting out annually. Um, it is less than a normal operational nuclear power plant would put
Mm-hmm.
out. So it is mostly safe. Trying to
Mm-hmm.
separate tritium from the water is like trying to separate hydrogen from water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I know that you know about it, a lot about it. I think Japan has a lot of problems being in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, getting power to all the people in the country. I think there's been a lot of new ways of creating power. But I mean, if you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you got a lot of n- natural disasters that happens, and I think it's really hard to get power to people in this country, in the city of Tokyo, in the city of wherever you live, right? The whole Japan. I think they depend on those nuclear power plants. I don't know if they're gonna change. I don't know if there's gonna be change in the country. I know wind is very hard to do because you get a typhoon, right, and it blows it away. And
Yeah.
there's so much new ways of getting power, but I don't know if there's any other way. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
And I, uh, you
Tidal,
know,
Wayne, yes, tidal power is really revolutionary. Just it is an expensive process and it is still in research from my understanding of it.
mm,
But I can look more into that because I have actually not looked into tidal power yet.
I,
But going back to what you're saying, um, no, nuclear power is one of the primary sources of power for Japan.
yeah,
Another one that I've seen that happened, another good way I've seen is Singapore. When they take the trash from their citizens, they
mm,
burn the trash and they use the heat from them disposing of the trash to make energy.
mm.
But also
They
with
use.
Japan, sorry, continue.
Okay, go ahead.
With yeah, as Wayne was saying, with Japan being surrounded by water, I don't see why y'all can't use hydroelectric if not tidal power,
Mhm.
given it will not go away.
Hmm. They use the heat from the garbage to heat up the indoor swimming pools. The government owns the city owns heat so they use the heat from that to heat up the indoor swimming pools that mostly the government or the city owns. That's what they're using that for. I don't know any other way of doing it, right? But that's what they use it for now. Um, because we have a really Amanda knows we have a really sticky way about disposing our garbage, right?
That's the one thing I think Americans, when they come here, they cannot wrap their head around or really get used to is you have to separate your trash. And if
Mm,
you're out and about, and let's say you get a drink or you get some street food or something, more than likely you have to bring the trash home than throw it away. 'Cause there's not a lot
mm,
of public trash cans.
yeah. Even if you go to McDonald's, right, Amanda, you have to separate your
McDonald's
trash.
makes you separate your trash
So you
where it
got the
yeah.
place where you put the liquid, you got the paper here, and you got the plastic here. And you don't use plastic straws, and they use paper straws in Japan now. So you put your after you eat your hamburger, you put the paper things all on the paper side, and you put the lid from your drink. You put it in the plastic side, and you put the paper straw in the paper straw side. That's how you do it.
Yeah, I had anxiety the first time I had to do it because I'm like, which goes in which? Because I didn't know.
Hmm.
But luckily, usually, like a local would be like, no, throw that there. And although it's just kind of like, point to which one? Because at first I'm like, I don't know which one goes in what. But just so much in Japanese, and everyone, I guess, here grew up knowing, but when you're new here, you're like, I don't know which one you expect to go and which. I'm
Like,
afraid
oh,
I'm putting the
yeah,
wrong one.
yeah. Even
So
not just McDonald's, KFC, um, every fast food restaurant has that here.
Everywhere has that here.
Yeah.
so
Our
another
trash
form
is
of energy I've
also
recently got introduced to is wave energy, where they use buoys,
Mm-hmm.
and the buoys move up and down with the current of the waves, and that
Mm-hmm.
generates electricity.
I didn't know that. You see, that's something that we
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
not intrusive to any ecosystem. Legitimately, it's just a buoy,
Mm,
and
that's
it'll just run a wire to a facility off the seabed, and that generates electricity.
wow. See, I didn't know that. Heck, Amanda. Shit, we're in the wrong line of work. Dang.
that is interesting though. That would be actually good for Japan because yeah, with it being one big island, just start putting those around the island and it's
Yeah.
just try to not to use the nuclear plants as much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously,
Well, so the
it's
nuclear plants, they are extremely reliable for producing mass energy
Mm-hmm.
and having a limited amount of waste, along with having the best safety rating. I see that nuclear power plants do get a lot of negative sight just because of nuclear disasters that happen, but there are safety precautions in place that are placed by the International Atomic Energy Agency. In the United States, I think it's the what is it? IAEA.
Mm. IAEA.
Yeah, that's there's also some of those out here in Japan
Mm-hmm.
that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
They are the governing. Japan has their own governing body that they work
Mm-hmm.
with.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was out here looking at the plants,
Mm-hmm.
looking at Fukushima when I was out there,
Mm-hmm.
um, I got talked to by some of the investigators and some of the maintainers that make sure day to day operations are safe,
Mm-hmm.
and they told me how they do it compared to how United States or the International Atomic Energy Agency would handle it. They're just a subdivision of the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Do you think that they could do a better job and that they could, I don't know. I'm I'm pissing in the wind, okay? When I'm talking like this.
Okay, yeah,
Uh
the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is the United States.
do you think that there's a lot of politics going on with that agency?
With the IAEA, no, most definitely
Okay.
not. The
Okay.
IAEA, the IAEA, they are just a separate governing body. They're not attached solely to one government. They are the main body for governing how nuclear power plants shall operate
Mhm.
and how they should conduct safety, how tests should be done, how often
Mhm.
tests should be done. They pretty much know anything and everything about how a nuclear power plant should operate. So
Mhm.
they know when something goes wrong, what went wrong, where, and how to prevent that.
Cuz I think there's a lot of garbage around the news about the IAEA, and uh I think that people need to be educated that they are separate agency and there's no government that's surrounding that agency, and that they do conduct their own tests. They do conduct their own um whatever grounds that they have to look at with certain nuclear power plants, and they do suggest that some parts have to be fixed or some parts have to be improved to make it safer. And that I think there's a lot of false information going on around there too about that. And I think educating the people, saying that there is no government that's controlling the IAEA, and they are a separate agency, and
So
they are doing their job.
yeah, they are a completely separate agency. They're just a company.
Mm,
They their entire thing is they want. I'm just reading this off of their website.
mhm,
Um, they're an intergovernmental organization, meaning they work with all governments. They
mhm,
want to promote the use of peaceful use of nuclear energy and inhibit it for any military purpose,
mhm.
including nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Also, going back to Fukushima Daiichi,
Mhm,
a report published on the 26th is showing that tritium levels have dropped to 1,500 becquerels per liter and
mhm.
is in line with international safety standards. They
Very good.
have they have successfully like completed a task that I personally did not think was possible.
Do you think that a lot of countries could learn about that too? The countries that have nuclear power plants? I think
Learn
it,
about what specifically?
like the education systems about how you treat after a
Oh,
fallout like that.
so yes, most countries do need to learn that, especially countries like I will say Russia, just because Russia has a lot of what's called orphan sources,
Mhm.
which is an abandoned piece of radiologic equipment or something that's been irradiated.
Mhm.
But no, yes, I do see that a lot of countries could benefit from
Mhm.
having proper education of how to deal with a meltdown and or fallout.
Mhm.
But if proper safety standards and modern safety standards have been put in place, then we should not have to see one
Mm.
because each personnel that works at a plant are trained specifically on what to do, how to do it, when to do
Mhm.
it, so the plant can maintain a proper and safe operation.
Mm. Yeah, that'd be something to think about the future, right? But Russia is still a communist country, right? And they do have closed doors, and there's amount of conspiracy, and there's amount of you know you know what I mean, right? What they will let
Um,
out.
yeah, it's kind of like Russia's closed door policy. They don't. There's things that they don't like. The mod like they don't like the open world to know. They want to keep
Mhm.
it in house just because it could harm the reputation of their country or
Mhm.
the reputation of the regime.
Mhm.
Like when Chernobyl went up in smoke.
Mhm.
Have a good one, Wayne. When Chernobyl went up in smoke, they denied it. They said it was just the tar on the roof on fire
Mm.
because they didn't want to be held responsible for having one of the world's worst nuclear meltdowns.
Mm. I
And
think
then following that, they tried to refuse help from other countries until countries like the United States, Germany
Mhm.
started getting measurements across the world
Mhm.
from that fallout because of the way the winds were and how it carried the dust.
Mhm.
It carried it all the way across the planet and it was able to trigger sensors
Mhm.
all the way across the world.
Mhm.
But no, yes, there's countries that will still tend to hide or not fully show how bad
Mhm.
it is.
Mhm.
But those countries also do have standards and safety regulations in place. If I could, I want to say that they are also working with IAEA
Mm-hmm.
just to help maintain proper plant operation,
Mm-hmm.
because each plant and each engineer, each operator in the plant, they have a specific job for a specific reason to keep the
Mm-hmm.
plant operational.
You, uh, that's interesting. As far as Russia is concerned, I just hope and pray that, someday everyone can come together and, yeah, live a peaceful life. I don't know. I think I'm just hoping for that, right? you know, because
Time
I
can
think
only tell what's gonna happen with that.
because you know, after nuclear disaster like Chernobyl, I mean, dang, it's just something that, yeah, a lot of people lost their life, right? A lot of people died. I mean, false information was handed out, I think, and I think they didn't have to die, but they died because they were told not to worry about it, right? It's just one of those things that happens. And I bet there's a lot of spirits running around there too because of that, also, right?
Yes,
Especially in Chernobyl.
mainly because um a lot of the population did get evacuated,
Hmm.
but there is still population that did remain, and also there's population of all the firefighters
Hmm.
that did tragically lose their life trying to fight the fire. Little did they know that they could not put it out because it was not a tar fire, because that's
Yeah.
what the firefighters were told going in, and that's coming from official logs, that the
Mm.
roof was on fire at the power plant, but little did they know that the plant was open.
I think there's a lot of problem with being open, right? And not worrying about your butt, right? For the safety of the people, and the safety of the workers who are working there and trying to help the people. It's just, that's still things that one thing that have to be fixed, I think. Uh, you know, because I think once something happens like that, there's no turning back, right? And you can't fix everything. I know that,
Always
but you
say
can.
this then Mandela effect.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I
Um,
I believe in that conspiracy theory totally.
yeah. Do you? What would be your bucket place to visit besides Fukushima and Chernobyl,
Um,
as far as
that's
paranormal is
actually
concerned, or or,
a
or something?
another one of my personal ones I wanted to go to is Alcatraz Island,
Mm-hmm.
mainly because after I was inspired by Zach Bagan and the Ghost Adventures crew
Mm-hmm.
when I was in my youth. I know it's
Mm-hmm.
laughable, but no, I was inspired by them. I was like
Man is laughing.
that.
Best role model ever. Zach, if you're watching this, you're a terrific role model. Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. I'm just cracking. I'm sorry. Okay, I got my I got my
That's
I
I,
what
reached their
originally got
wake
me.
up middle of the night laugh.
That's what's originally got me into looking into the paranormal was that show.
Mhm.
And I remember one of the episodes I would just watch back to back was Alcatraz Island.
Mhm.
And at a point in time, I do want to be able to go out there and just go explore it myself.
Mhm.
but do want to go back to the graveyards in New Orleans and
That's still
Mm-hmm.
on
go
my bucket list too,
explore a little bit deeper.
especially to see
Yeah.
the grave of the Voodoo Queen. I know everyone says her body was moved, but I think a lot of people still do a lot of I don't want to say well seances, yeah, but also I think a lot of people do what is the rituals there that I feel like there has to be still some activity at her
Mm-hmm.
original grave. I don't know where her body's been moved to, but someone said her body's been moved somewhere else.
Mm. I think the essence of her is still there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I know a lot of people visit it for that reason. So I'm sure people do seances there. Some people have to do rituals there. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure all that energy has is still there or has even created more energy just based on doing that. That's also what I think with a lot of these haunted locations is
Mm-hmm.
maybe they weren't as haunted before, but with all everyone going in there doing what they do, I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people have opened portals that they didn't realize they did, creating now this more of a haunted
Oh man,
experience.
you can't stop that. You know that it's gonna be. Like, don't do that. Why can't I do that? Because you're gonna open a portal. Oh, what's that? Like, gee whiz. I think anything happens like that too. You know, I think anywhere is like that too. Amanda. Well, the people are starting to do something crazy, and then poof, the doors open, and they don't know how to close it.
Yeah, one thing I will give Zach credit for is whether you love him or hate him, he got a lot of interest in the field. What happened after that with a lot of people with more interest in the field, not his fault.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with all, I mean, Irene, being in the community as much as I am,
Mm-hmm.
so much drama in it, and now there's a lot of people who are just faking evidence just to be seen with the light. So, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are just like, "Oh, sorry, the Zach," I'm like, it's not his fault. This is what it
No,
came down to.
Yeah.
but you know what? I think thanks to him, because his videos in the beginning were not that bad.
Yeah, he was a really good investigator in the beginning, but I think after a
It
while,
it
it's
started
not
out
really
really good,
it's not
and
really his fault. It's changed. It's more of
yeah,
especially with people wanting more for views. Unfortunately, it's more of kind of give the people what they want, which is leading to what it is now in a paranormal. This is not
yeah,
just him. Unfortunately, I mean, how many videos have you seen that are obviously fake for the views on TikTok or even
yeah,
Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels? And it's just
yeah,
we're so used to it by now.
yeah. I
No, so
I
the main
think.
reason I do appreciate Zach is his investigations in the beginning of his career.
Hmm.
It opened the door for a lot of modern youth
Yeah.
to go explore and investigate paranormal on their own
Hmm.
and learn from his experiences. Now, looking at modern work, I wouldn't say that so much,
Hmm.
but his early his early career work is what inspired a lot of modern investigators and paranormal enthusiasts
Mhm.
Hmm.
to do what we do.
I I have to agree with that. We have to. I don't know, Amanda. Do you? I she's laughing again.
Well, I mean, yes, it has to that's also one thing I will say is doesn't matter how you feel about him, he did inspire a lot of people to enter the paranormal, and he did make
Yeah,
it more of a thing that people more accepted in at least in the US. Here, it's
yeah.
still here in Japan, it's still not as accepted, and I think it's
Ugh.
getting less accepted, and right now with how the paranormal field is getting and how many people are faking it, that is one thing someone has actually said to me here was especially the videos here in Japan that they're seeing, because you and I are obviously we're getting the Japanese TikTok and Instagram, and we're getting more of the fake videos over here
Mhm.
than anything real. Now, that is one thing someone has said to me is, Well, if that's all we see over here is the fake paranormal videos, why should I
Hmm.
believe that there's anything real? And I'm like, you know what? That's a good point. If all you see is fake, why should you believe that anything is real?
Yeah, and I think, woo, I think younger people are really, I don't know, they it's not that much of an interest with them, like when it was a long time ago. And I think it's really hard to convince a young person that it does exist and that there are things in this world that we don't know, especially in this country, right, Amanda?
Yeah.
And, like, it could be really freaky no matter how you look at it, right?
Yeah.
And you could say it's real or not, it's up to you to decide. I mean, I'm not going to try to convince you that it's real, I'm not going to convince you that it's fake, but
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of freaky stuff that happens in this country. And, we
And
don't
you're
have
right.
this kind of
I'm
time.
sure Ryu knows that though, because
Yeah.
he's seen some shit everywhere he's been. So
It's just like unbelievable. Um, there are some places that you can't go to for safety reasons. Um, you can go in there, but you won't come out, or you can go in there, you won't come out alive. There are some places like that in here in this country. Um, there are some places like that where Amanda lives that are like that too, where you can go in, you won't come out. Um, and there are some places that you can go in. It's at your own risk that'll make you sick, and you could die the next day too.
2
I mean,
hours north of me, there is a town I do want to see. It is an abandoned town now. It is
mm,
the Inunaki Village or the Howling Dog Village, where it was
mhm,
once basically all the outlaws in Japan lived there, and
mhm,
the sign is still there outside the little village in the mountains in the forest that says beyond this point Japanese law does not exist. Basically, it was made for people who did not want to follow Japanese law, so they made that town, and now it's supposed to be it's supposed to be abandoned now, but it's something
yeah.
I would love to see it.
Um, yeah. Like I told Amanda, like we did on our podcast, my husband lived not too far away from there, right? It's a urban, they call it urban legend, okay, because they don't want people to know that it did exist and that there was a life like that too. And like everyone knows about that place, right? Every kid living in the area knows about that place.
In Fukuoka, yeah.
And it's one of the most freakiest haunted place ever on that island. And they got a lot of freaky stuff on that island too, Amanda. My husband knows of it by heart, but I can't keep track of whatever he knows. But yeah, growing up, he knew a lot of places in the area that's really freaky haunted. And if you ever get the chance to walk around there, it'd be something for him to see that's a little bit different. And yeah, you should really find out about it because even if you ask Amanda, and I could find out more information because you'll never find out. There's no vital records, like I said. The only way that you'll find out is through somebody who used to live there or somebody that still lives there even to this day will tell you about the stuff that goes on around that area and the stuff that went on around that area too. Is yeah, it's bloody haunted. Okay, in simple English. And it's crazy too. There's a tunnel that was attached to that area too. That I think they blocked it off, right? I think they boarded it up. That tunnel is supposed to be really crazy haunted too. I mean, you
Yeah.
could hear screaming, you could hear voices. There's a lot of oh, I don't know. disembodied voices, disembodied spirits, shadow shadow people. Um, yeah, I mean that's really creepy, creepy haunted. And there's another place where Amanda lives, not too far away from it, in Nagasaki, where um 12 Christians were um crucified. It's on a hill, not too far away from Amanda lives, in Nagasaki, because the first um Christian ship that brought religion to Nagasaki, they were all crucified to the cross. And that's another freaky haunted place to visit. It's on a big hill. You can visit there, and yeah, their bodies were left to rot on the cross. And I I know there's a lot of residual energy from there too. So it's just a lot of old history still remains where a lot of deaths did occur that were creepy, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it it still exists to this day. And it's not going to go anywhere. It really isn't. It's like from a long time ago. There's a lot. There's a lot. There was a lot of slaying of people, innocent people, um, deaths of a lot of people that happened in the forest all around where she is. Um, ah, like hundreds of people have lost their lives, and hundreds of people are in the forest still, even to this day, around Nagasaki and around that area. And I think there's still a castle there that you can visit. That's also haunted too. I think Nagasaki Castle's haunted too. I think Amanda.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I have to check that out.
because when they were having fields between the west and the east, they fought left, right, and center. So yeah, they did fight a lot. So that's one place where you can go visit too and see, because um yeah, I think those are some of the crazy places that you can visit that has a lot of interesting things that happen that are all paranormal. God. And you know what? You ever seen a dark spirit come at you and say, "Hi, I'm here. I'm dead. Like I can see you, but don't talk to me and don't come near me."
I'm used
No.
to like shadow figure. I told you know this, Irene. I'm used to shadow figures doing that here.
Yeah, because when you took your dog for a walk, remember, you
Yeah.
freaked out and you called me, right?
Well, there was
Cause
a time that
you,
I heard a scream coming from the bay, and it was of a ghost of a spirit of a Japanese girl who died there.
yeah,
So I'm like, you know
it,
what? It's not that dark. I don't really see a lot of things. It'd be a good night. Go ahead, walk my dog a little bit more. I heard that scream. And I'm like, you know what? I changed my mind.
yeah,
Guess we're going back in.
yeah,
Yeah, you know
like,
what? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
it,
It was this. It came from the bay. I remember it
yeah,
came from the bay, and you could
mhm,
tell it was a woman scream, but it
mhm,
didn't sound human. So I'm like,
No.
and
No.
I'm used
No.
to hearing
No.
all the
No. No.
ship sounds. It's not a sound I've heard there out there before.
uh,
So I'm like, yeah, I'm just. Once I heard that scream, I was like, am, I was like, I'm just gonna go back in.
oh God. Oh, dang. I think around Cush Island, I think it's Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happened. Uh, the reason why I'm laughing because it's so I don't know. There's so much there
Mhm.
in that island and around that island. It's yeah, freaky haunted, right? Eh, never mind the dark shadows that you find from the people who died in the atomic bomb, right? But we're
Yeah,
not just talking there, we're talking the history of what happened beyond that, right? uh, that's what we're also seeing too. So you got a mixture of the old and of the accident, right? Or not accident. Well, not
Yeah.
accident. Well, you know what I mean. And it's a mixture and it's a cluster, so the whole thing is just exploding. But I know her side has really a lot of shadow people, a lot of shadow figures, a lot of entities that do roam, and they don't care if it's light or they don't care if it's night or day. They'll come out whenever they feel like it, right?
I think around here though they do around more of night just because it's obviously less people that they have to deal with. And it's not just, and I know a lot of people are just like, oh well, paranormal activity usually happens at night because of blah blah blah. And I'm like, I just feel like here they don't want to deal with people either,
Yeah,
so they're like, we'll come out at night, so we're less
yeah.
bothered by people.
Yeah, they're like, yeah,
Who's-
yeah, humans ain't it.
This is two people leave. I don't want to two people leave.
it's just something. Yeah. Um, Japan is one weird place. I tell you that much. Like I have never heard of so many rules, right, Amanda?
Yeah,
When
it is one thing you have to get used to, and fines are a lot higher when you break them.
oh gosh darn. Yeah, that's Japan for you, I tell you. I think there's so much superstition that revolves around it too, right, Amanda? And don't do this, you'll create that, and don't do that, you'll create this. Okay, I won't. Like um aside from those places that you've talked about, um would you be willing to go to like Inunaki Forest?
Um, I'm still debating. I'm right now unsure of if I want to or not. But it is something I would be open to.
Yeah, make sure you're totally grounded when you go there. And you can't go there alone. You have to go with somebody
Yeah, that's why I haven't visited yet because I'm trying to find someone to go with.
because it's one of the worst places in Kyushu Island to visit. Aside from other places, right, Amanda? It's not one of it's not one of the most pleasant haunted places to visit, right?
Hmm.
Eh, Japan is really strange as far as I'm concerned with with urban legends and um
Yeah,
because they
when I
they
was
call
when I was there, my translator, she had a lot of like urban legends, and she said that whenever we do come back, because I do plan on coming back to Japan eventually.
hmm
She said whenever we do come back, she wants to take us to certain places. So I'll definitely get in contact with you once I come back to Japan.
yeah, that'll be interesting. um there are some places around here too that are crazy crazy also. um it's just you got your variety where she lives. It's they're how can I say, they're in your face, but they're not crazy like they are here, okay, on this side of the island.
Mine, it's more tragic souls here, but it's more suicidal souls around her.
Yeah, my side is yeah, it's more freaky on this side. You deal with them, and yeah, they'll come after you too. They'll come running after you also. Like, okay, like the suicide people. I'm not gonna call it spirits because they were people. Because I'm gonna give them. I'm gonna give them body. I'm gonna give them a face. Sometimes they can be really jealous. They're more scary. They're more vengeful. Uh, it's it's not something that you want to talk to or associate with because they want what you have and they'll try to take it, whatever you have. I think that's the part that people are scared about on this side of Japan than on her side of Japan. Like her side of Japan is a lot easier to work with than on this side. Um, there's a lot of you don't have to go very far to find anything haunted in Japan. You just go at your front door, right, Amanda?
Yeah.
And, and oh, there, and like, like you don't have to book anything to go see anything haunted. There's a lot of schools that are haunted too. There's a lot of hotels that are haunted, like abandoned hotels that are haunted. There's a lot of billions of houses too, right, Amanda?
Oh, definitely houses.
Yeah, they're haunted also.
There's
It's
supposed to be like
just.
urban legends of how you die, that you're gonna haunt the place. Like if even if you died in your like supposedly what I heard, even if you die like in your sleep, but you were home alone,
Hmm.
they think you're gonna haunt that house.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
that's
crazy stuff
true,
like
true.
that.
Yeah. And how you died, right?
Hmm.
How you died too. Hmm. It's just one of those crazy things that they do in this country. I've seen this country
Yeah,
some.
there is a list of I forgot what it was, but there is a list of ways that if you die, how you die, even if like peacefully, they still think that soul's gonna haunt that place.
Hmm. That's why they give it up. That's why they move away.
That's usually when they move away and it goes abandoned for like the longest time.
Hmm.
So they finally
That
just give up.
that's why so many abandoned houses are in Japan too, right, Amanda?
Hmm.
Because I think they don't want to deal with it, or they think that it's gonna come and attack you, or they're gonna think it's gonna come and attack the family. So they don't they don't bother doing anything. They never heard of cleansing. They just get rid of it. That's how Japan is like. Um, I think I think I could never get used to that. Right? Mm, I think the Western world, I think, would want to put a spirit to peace. Then in Japan, they just want to get rid of it
Hmm.
or move out. Um, it's just that hard because I think they don't want to. I think they're afraid to deal with it, right? Because they're afraid for it to attack the family. They're afraid of it hurting somebody, which I can understand too, because that can happen too, right?
Yeah.
I think I don't know, because I think there was a lot of killings in the past with a lot of women and with a lot of souls that are still wandering because of that. I don't know, it just created some kind of pool that made Japan the way it is, that made it scary. I don't know. whatchamacallit, whatever you call it, right, Amanda?
Yeah.
Like people say, it's just a spirit. Oh yeah, you want to make a bet? You come here. You know, they'll scare the pants off of you, right? Um, w- I'm just trying to find the right question for him.
It's fine. We can have him again. I know it's getting close to
Hmm.
both yours and I's dinner time. I'm sure it's close to breakfast
Yeah,
or lunch for Ryu too.
yeah,
I know that's also probably your issue. You're like, yeah, it's almost dinner time.
yeah. I'm gonna make noodles for supper, or get takeout. What do you think? I'm getting hungry. I'm getting
Yeah, I was like,
tired.
I know it's that time for you because you're thinking about that before we got on. You're like, oh, I'm gonna make dinner. I'm like, it's that time for you. Well, I mean, I'm sure Ryu can always come back. So
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Um,
Yeah, it was great
if
to talk with like-minded people. I appreciate y'all for having me.
no, we
yeah,
appreciate you taking the time to join us.
uh, if you ever get a chance to come up to Tokyo, I think it'll be kind of different for you.
She'll cook
Um,
you some food.
yeah, yeah, I'll cook you some food. I'll make sushi for you.
She cooks
I'm
a
just
bunch
Sounds
of
kidding.
nice.
different Japanese dishes, though.
Yeah. It's a little bit different it's a little bit different here. And plus we have Yokota, which is Japanese uh what is it? I think Yokota is more of the Navy, right? And they have a
Yeah,
lot
that
of
is Yakuza.
hmm they have a lot of weird things that happen in that area too.
Yeah,
And the Marines are in Akitsu. That's also crazy haunted too. I think the whole friggin' area is haunted. They have a lot of weird stuff happening around there. I think a lot of times that they don't want to even talk about it, right? Like in Okinawa, like they don't want to even discuss what happened around
yeah, it's Yakuza by you up there in Tokyo.
yeah,
Yakuza, that is Navy.
Yokosuka, yeah,
Yeah, I think my
I,
husband was up there for training, and I
yeah,
had to ask him, and I was
uh,
like, "What is
uh,
that up there? Is that it?" Because I also think
yeah,
there's Yokohama. I think is another one.
yeah.
There's
Yokohama has a lot of crazy stuff happening there too. Because there's a beach after World War II. You can't go there after 9 o'clock because if you do, the spirits will take you and they'll take you to your death. Um,
maybe people
that's
start
an
sneaking in after 9 to see.
yeah, and they made a friggin' park out of it. Would you believe it, Amanda?
Oh, of course, they would make.
Dang, right? Oh God, I think they're I think they're going crazy with these parks. Nobody wants to visit them. I don't want to go there even if I was friggin' paid to. No thanks. But anyways, thank you for coming on our
Yeah, thank
show.
you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and
It was
we
nice.
want to have you back afterwards when you do certain visits. It'll
So
be
you can
really
come back
cool.
anytime, not just during certain visits. If you want to come back later this week, come back later this
Yeah.
week. Come back next week. Come back next week. Come back. Want to come
Yeah,
back next
that should be honestly no problem.
month? Yeah.
No.
I'll talk with my manager and I'll see if I can set up a schedule for it.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you
Because
very much.
this is a so good news for you guys. You
Mm-hmm.
guys are officially the first people to have this model on y'all stream. This model has not been debuted yet. So
Thank
this is a pre-debut model.
you. You're so special.
Thank
So
you.
I'll talk
People
with my
said
manager.
the comments are saying they love it. They're like, I love how you're talking to this. And I'm like, yeah, we really are.
Yeah,
So I'll
it's
talk to my
almost
manager
Okay.
it's a
and I'll
privilege to
see.
have you, and you know. I mean, we wanted to protect you with your model on. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I would say contact my manager, but my manager is Oreo, so
yeah.
can be
Uh,
bribed with the dog treats.
Yeah, I will
oh
talk to my manager
yeah.
and I'll see when the next time I can come on is. But my manager said that he does really like y'all's content and that's why he allowed it.
Okay.
hmm
He allowed me to come on
Um.
because he said that it is because I do play a lot of on scare games. Like I do plan on doing another stream this week
mhm.
for for a game called the Mortuary Assistant.
I've
Ooh.
seen that. I used to stream horror games. I thought about getting back into that, but unfortunately, all the people I played with stopped
hmm
playing.
Yeah.
But no, I can talk with my manager this week and see what I can set up.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And come back with more different places that you want to talk that you can talk about, right? That'd be
Or
cool
even
too.
like stories. Like we didn't get to talk about any like maybe your first stories of your haunted places.
Yeah, that'd be
Oh
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that gives us more to talk about later on, Amanda, right? uh, yeah, and we want to thank everybody for tuning in at
Thank
this
you everyone
time.
for watching.
It's late. We know it's late in America, right? But but yeah, it was one of these shows that we really had to do. We
Yeah.
don't do normally shows around this time of the hour, but we had just had to do this, right?
Mhm. So anyways,
And
thank you so much for joining us. Everyone else, thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.
thank you guys.
bye. Thank you.